Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word, and to something I've not really done before, at least at this stage of the off-season. Now, as you know, 2022 will see one of the biggest shake-ups of the regulations in the sport's history, and it represents a real opportunity for teams up and down the pit lane to try to steal a march on their rivals. It also leaves us as fans with a lot of questions, because everything is so secretive right now and likely will be until that first race in Bahrain. We'll get some glimpses in testing, but we won't get a real picture until probably Bahrain and maybe even after that. So I thought for 1 year only, this was a great opportunity to have a little bit of fun and make some totally blind predictions, and then come back and look at them after testing before making my final 2022 predictions. Yes, it will be all guesswork, and I'll likely be completely wrong. But these resets don't come around all that often, so as I say, it's a chance to have a little bit of fun for a change, rather than just making one set of totally serious and somewhat logical predictions. Plus, let's face it, you can laugh your backsides off at me when I'm inevitably completely wrong come testing. Quick disclaimer as well before I get into it, this has been recorded on the 2nd of February because I'm in London when this goes out, and so I kind of had to get it done before I go away. So this is all based on the assumption that Lewis Hamilton will stay in F1 for 2022. I'll have a go at the full Constructors Championship standings and do my top 6, I think, in the Drivers' Championship as well. So here we go, time for my unnecessarily early 2022 predictions. Let's start with that Constructors then. I'll go in reverse order, and in last place I've gone with Haas. Sorry, Haas fans. Look, I think there will be a big improvement versus last season. I really do. And I think they will score points and be part of a good scrap with the teams I've put just ahead of them. But despite the fact they've put full focus on 22, I'm not totally convinced it will be enough to overturn the big deficit to those around them. Remember, many teams switched focus to the new regulations early, and some spent most, if not all, of last year working on them as well. So Haas on in a unique position, if that makes sense. I hope I'm wrong, because I'd love to see them back in that midfield, and I hope we see a big leap, but I'm not totally sold on it. Next up, P9, I'm saying Williams. So they made good progress last year, and maybe they will continue to do that. I mean, they have some good people on board, as do many teams to be fair, and they are now more financially secure than they were a couple of years ago, and we should start to see that pay off a little bit more in 22. However, in what could be a very close fight with those around them, I'm a little bit concerned that the driver lineup could be what makes the difference. And in all honesty, I think they are weaker in that area now than they were last season. Alex Albon will take time to get up to speed, and that could hamper them, especially early on in the season. And although I think he improved last year, the jury is still definitely out on Nicholas Latifi. And that also goes a long way in explaining why I've gone with Alfa Romeo for P8 in the standings. Yeah, all right, Guan Yu Zhou is a rookie, and that could hamper the team in a close fight as well. As a little bit of an example, AlphaTauri could well have pipped Alpine to P5 last year had Tsunoda hit the ground running. The point is, though, it takes time to bed a rookie in. But I feel as though Valtteri Bottas could well carry Alfa, and I'm even going to go as far as to predict that he will score more points than the Williams drivers combined. As will be the case for every single team, though, it all comes down to that car. If one of the teams I've picked as my bottom 3, for now anyway, manages to find something clever that helps them steal a march on their rivals, the difference the drivers make is going to be less of a factor. It will still be important, but if you've got a Williams, for example, that's half a second quicker than an Alfa, the drivers aren't making the difference they'll make if they're very, very close in terms of pace. For 7th in the Constructors, I've actually gone with AlphaTauri, and I'm not totally confident on this one at all. I don't think they will build a bad car, and Pierre Gasly has been so impressive over the last couple of seasons that he may well make the difference again. And I fully expect Yuki Tsunoda to make a big step forward this year as well. My problem is that I just think some of the teams that were around them last year, your Alpines and Astons in particular, are more likely to make a bigger jump forward than AlphaTauri. The only thing I will add, though, is a pretty good point made by Hazel in Chainbear's prediction challenge. If you've seen that, you'll know what I mean. But with the links to Red Bull and the potential for some sharing of parts and information, the things they are legally allowed to share, of course, that could help Alpha in a very tight midfield fight. It's just something worth considering. Next up, and this is where it gets tough. Even if these are just guesses, I'm still struggling, but I'm going to say Aston Martin for P6. As I said in my teams to watch video, I think they will take a step forward and will challenge for the best of the rest spot, which for now I'm still going to say is the battle for P4. It could be P5, it might even be P3, who knows? But I think they'll fall just short of making it, but it will be close with the team I've put ahead of them. And by close, I mean really close. I can see this coming down to one really good or really bad result, whoever's in that position, or even, perhaps more crucially, who manages to nail the development race, because that's going to be the key in 2022, certainly early on. Aston are a team going places and things look good for the future, but I don't expect them to be up there winning races or anything mad like that in 2022, but I think they'll be okay. As for who will take 5th, I'm going to say Alpine. Now, that is where they ended up last year, but I actually think they will be a fair bit closer to the top 4 than they were in 2021. I don't think we'll see a title challenge despite having Alonso on board and a whole new power unit to go with the brand new car, but I think they will have a pretty good year. As I've said many times over the last few months, they are my dark horses, so maybe they will be able to spring a few surprises, but they are going to face, as I've already said, some really stiff competition from Aston. That battle could well be one of the most fascinating of the season, and I will probably get way too invested in it like I did in the battle last year between Alpine and AlphaTauri. As for the top 4, this has been really tough, even though I'm not taking these seriously. P4, I'm going to say McLaren. So many people seem to feel like they could be contenders this year, and maybe they will be, but I am not sold at all. My gut feeling is that they will end up in 4th, but will be fairly close to the top 3, but not quite there, not enough pace to get there. And actually, maybe they'll be closer to Alpine than the team I've put in P3. They've made great progress over the years, and maybe if Mercedes and Red Bull are hampered by last year's title fight, they might be able to make it into the top 3. I'm just not sure they will. However, I will say I would be surprised if they didn't at the very least find themselves on the top step of the podium once again. And you know, if Daniel Ricciardo can find his form this year, they could get themselves right in the mix. Next up, 3rd place, Red Bull, which I'm sure is going to go down really well. I'm going to work on the assumption that the title fight did have a small impact on them and their development of the 2022 car. Not huge, but an impact nevertheless. I mean, they will be in a fight and they will pick up wins and podiums over the course of the year. That's not an outlandish claim, I know. But I think they will ultimately fall short come the end of the year. But Red Bull are one of those teams you can never write off. And you know, I would not be at all surprised if by the time we get to Bahrain, they end up as the team to beat. After all, Adrian Newey is pretty handy when it comes to taking advantage of the aero regulations. So rule them out at your peril, I guess. As for the runners-up spot, I'm actually going to say, and you probably already know where this is going, I'm saying Mercedes in P2. To be honest, I was torn here, though, because the noises coming from the team are very positive, and I can see them rocking up this year and having the fastest package. However, they too could feel the effects of the title fight, and again, assuming Hamilton stays, they have got one big question mark over their driver lineup, and that is George Russell. You all should know by now that I think he is a proper talent, has huge potential, and did a great job at Williams. He also did an incredible job when he stood in for Lewis Hamilton at Sakir in 2020. But it is going to take time for him to find his feet, and that could be the difference between a team winning the title and just missing out. I mean, don't get me wrong, he may well be fine and get to grips with the car and the pressures of being at the front straight away. But whichever way you look at it, and no matter how highly you rate him, the fact of the matter is he is a bit of an unknown compared to some other lineups on the grid. It's not a knock at George by any means at all, but it is worth bearing in mind. It could make the difference. And of course, that all means that I have picked Ferrari as my 2022 Constructors Champions as of the 2nd of February 2022. Got a feeling that could change by the time we get to my actual predictions, but, you know, we'll worry about that then. I am expecting, or maybe at least hoping, that it will be a close fight between the top 3 this year, and so they could just as easily end up in 3rd. But as I said last week, they have everything they need to make the leap to the front, and this coming season has been top priority for a while. A new car, a new engine, and a driver lineup that was so strong and consistent last year, I think they're in great shape. But even if they don't quite have enough to take the title, I think they will be solidly top 3 and will pick up at least a couple of wins in 2022. I guess what I'm saying is that as a bare minimum, the groundwork will have been laid and they will be on the right track for a challenge in the near future, if not this season. And you know, actually, it is nice at this stage, which is kind of why I'm doing these. Predictions over the last few years have been really predictable when it comes to my videos anyway, and maybe these still are, I don't know. But it's really nice to not just sit here and pick the usual Mercedes, Red Bull, Mercedes top 2. Anyway, I do kind of hope these are wrong, by the way, because if I'm being completely transparent about it, I'd quite like to see a bit more of a shake-up of the order than that. I'm just not expecting it to be. I know some are, but I just don't see it. I still think we're going to have the same teams at the top, with maybe a Ferrari and or a McLaren thrown in there. Anyway, what about the top 6 in the drivers then? Well, if you've seen Chainbear's predictions challenge video, you already know who I've gone with for the title, so that's not going to come as too much of a surprise, but this is going to be filled with the drivers from my picks for the top 3 in the Constructors, because I think those 3 teams will have a bit too much of an advantage for those behind to get into that final mix for a top 6 spot. I hope I'm wrong, or that at least changes in 2023 and beyond, and we get a much closer field, but for now, 6th place, I'm going to put Sergio Perez. Mainly because I think out of the top 3 teams, Red Bull are more likely to sacrifice him to help Verstappen if Max is involved in the title fight. And that is obviously going to hamper him at times and cost him points, which is fine, by the way. Not so much if you're Checo, but there's nothing wrong with prioritising a driver. I mean, it worked perfectly nicely for Ferrari in the past, and it is a team sport at the end of the day. I'm going to say George Russell for P5. I think that's going to be a little bit controversial. And that's for pretty much all of the reasons I mentioned earlier when talking about Mercedes. So no point really repeating those, but the short version of it all is that basically I just expect those ahead of him to have the edge and to get up to speed a little bit more quickly. And if it is as close as I hope, dropping points early on could be very costly for him. In 4th place, I'm saying Max Verstappen. And I've kind of been forced into that position because of my predictions in the Constructors, I guess. Look, even though I'm sort of guessing that the title fight will be between Ferrari and Mercedes, you cannot write Max off at all. And I can see him, even in a car that is potentially a little bit worse off, just pipping George to 4th. And do you know, I could even see him taking 3rd because he has proven so many times that he can be the difference when things are close between certain teams. I'm not saying he won't defend the title. I'm not saying he won't be in the mix. It's just, with my Constructors predictions being pretty much all Ferrari, I can't see how both those drivers won't be in the top 3. And on that note, I'm putting Carlos Sainz in 3rd. I think he will have a very good season, even better than 2021, and will be involved in the title fight to a point. However, I just don't think he will have enough to overcome those ahead of him by the end of the season. As we get towards the end of 2022, I can see Ferrari starting to sacrifice him a little bit as well if his teammate ends up being the most likely to take the title, and that will cost him points and could even be the reason he slips behind Verstappen. I don't know. I want to put Max 3rd. It feels so wrong not putting him 3rd. I don't know why. I'll leave Carlos Sainz there for now, but fully expect if at the end of testing it does turn out that I was bang on, then don't be surprised if I put Max Verstappen in 3rd, because I think I've just talked myself out of that. But anyway, it doesn't matter. These are just early guesses. My runner-up, you've probably worked it out by now, is Lewis Hamilton. I think he will challenge for the championship. I think he will fight hard, and I think he will come very close to title number 8. But I've just got a feeling Ferrari will have the better car, and that will ultimately be the difference. What I will say, though, is if Mercedes and Ferrari are basically equal, I can see Lewis ultimately being the difference and winning it all in the end. But for some reason, I'm going all in on Ferrari having the best car out there in 2022. All of my eggs in one basket and all that. So Charles Leclerc for the title is what I'm going to say again for now. And that's for everything I've just said. Leclerc is a very good driver who still, I feel, has a ton of potential. And I reckon he's absolutely in that potential champion category when it comes to things like his raw speed and his talent. So if he has the fastest car out there in 2022, I can't see him throwing it away. I really can't. Sure, all right, he's made costly mistakes in the past that he will need to iron out if he wants to mount a title challenge. But he impressed me in 2020. And although he lost out on points to Sainz last year, he impressed me again. And as I said a few weeks ago, I think his performances flew under the radar last season. I may well be way off. You know I probably am. And this might seem like utter madness to some of you, but that's my picks for the titles. Right now, Leclerc and Ferrari. That is it for this one then, but you can let me know your unnecessarily early predictions in the comment section down below. And just a reminder, these are just for fun. They are basically total guesses, and I'll do my final, more serious and slightly more informed predictions after pre-season testing. So please try not to take them too seriously, and certainly don't get annoyed if I've not put your favourite team or your favourite driver where you'd like them to be. Now, I will be back soon with another video, and just to let you know that when this video goes out, I will be in London and will be there until Saturday evening. So unfortunately, I won't be able to cover the Aston Martin or McLaren launches on the days they happen, or any launches that happen this week. However, we are going to go live on Sunday, February 13th for a little bit of a chat about them and look ahead to the rest of pre-season. In the meantime, though, if you did enjoy this one, then please do leave a like, as it really does help out the channel. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.